channel. My name is Venetia Alexander Marshall and welcome. If you are new here, hi, how are you? Don't forget to hit the subscribe button at the bottom and make sure you're clicking the notification bell so every time I'm uploading a new video, you are notified. Part 2 of the declutter. Now this time I'm doing this declutter without my ring light because my son and his girlfriend are using my ring light right now to do his hair. So I'm going to do the remaining of this declutter without my ring light. And I'm just going to go ahead and let you guys know now. I went ahead and decluttered my setting powders, and I went ahead and decluttered my bronzers slash foundation powders. I actually decluttered more setting powders than I did bronzer slash foundation powders. I know I'm ridiculous, but we're here for the big mama jamma eyeshadow palettes. I have 2 drawers of eyeshadow palettes. I've already began pulling out eyeshadow palettes from the bigger palettes. So that's what I'm going to start with first. This is going to take a while because I have that many eyeshadow palettes. So come on. Let's get the last of this declutter over with all of my eyeshadow palettes, starting with my big palettes first. Alright, here is part 1 of my eyeshadow palettes. Yes, I have a lot and I'm not done. I'm going to treat my eyeshadow palettes a little differently. I am either going to keep the eyeshadow palette or throw them away if they're too old, declutter to give it to someone else, or some of these you may find on my Poshmark. These are going to be the only items that I am decluttering that you will probably find on my Poshmark. I will link my Poshmark in the bottom of the description box if you're interested in purchasing any of these gently used eyeshadow palettes. And I'm just going to tell you, a lot of these eyeshadow palettes I'm not touching. I haven't touched, probably won't touch. Some of these palettes I do use. And so forth and so forth. And I'm actually going to start with this ABH Norvina collection eyeshadow palette. This will be a palette you will see on Poshmark. I don't wear this. I think this is volume 5. This is the volume 5 eyeshadow palette. This is what the palette looks like, and as you can see, I know you can't really see because I don't have my ring light in here, but that is what it looks like. There it is. I don't wear this palette. This is a gently used palette. I may have worn this palette maybe 2 or 3 times, and it's just been sitting. It's really just been sitting. So this eyeshadow palette I will put on my Poshmark. This last Jaclyn Hill collab with Morphe, the Divine Neutrals eyeshadow palette, this will also go on my Poshmark. I have a lot of neutral palettes. I got it when it first came out. It's basic, just like the other palettes that I have, and I don't wear this palette. I don't pick this palette up. I'm telling you now, maybe I've only dug out of this twice. I have not worn this palette. It's just been sitting here. You will find this eyeshadow palette on my Poshmark. Now this Jaclyn Hill collab with Morphe, I am going to go ahead and keep it. This is the volume 2 eyeshadow palette that came out several years ago. I'm not going to get rid of this. I am going to keep it. Yeah, if you know what this is, and a lot of people still refer to this palette all these years later. I have only been in it a few times, but because of the nostalgia and people still use this palette, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to keep this eyeshadow palette. Alright, I have these 2 limited edition eyeshadow palettes from ABH. This Jackie Aina collab, my all-time favorite. This is my travel eyeshadow palette. I still use this eyeshadow palette. Ain't no way in hell anyone's getting this eyeshadow palette. I'm not getting rid of my Jackie Aina eyeshadow palette. This is my travel eyeshadow palette. As you can see, this eyeshadow palette is well loved. It's hit pan. Some of them are about to hit more pan. No way in hell I'm getting rid of this eyeshadow palette. Also not getting rid of the Amrezy collab eyeshadow palette. No way in hell. I do use this eyeshadow palette. Yeah, I kind of messed it up at the top. But I'm not getting rid of this eyeshadow palette. I am definitely keeping this eyeshadow palette and the Jackie Aina. This Modern Renaissance eyeshadow palette, I just got it. I know this has been around for a long time, but this is actually new to me, and I have not had this not even a year yet, so I am definitely keeping this eyeshadow palette. I'm actually, here it is. Same with the Soft Glam eyeshadow palette. Again, I haven't had these palettes very long. Oops. I haven't had these eyeshadow palettes very long. I'm definitely keeping this one as well. I know you see all these Juvia's Place eyeshadow palettes I have. This is the Nubian 3 Coral palette. Yeah, I still go into this eyeshadow palette as well. I still use it. I'm definitely keeping this eyeshadow palette from Juvia's Place. I might move that down. This is the Afrique eyeshadow palette. This is one I don't use. I don't use this eyeshadow palette. I'm gonna go ahead and declutter it and give it to someone because I know they would really like this eyeshadow palette. I will be keeping the Warriors 2 eyeshadow palette. This is the all matte eyeshadow palette, and I have used this, particularly this shade up here I have used, so I'm definitely going to be keeping this one. This is the original Warriors eyeshadow palette. Definitely keeping this eyeshadow palette. I do wear this eyeshadow palette. As you can see, it is very well loved. I am definitely keeping this eyeshadow palette. The Warriors 3 eyeshadow palette. I don't wear this palette. I'm going to go ahead and put this eyeshadow palette on Poshmark. I don't wear it. It's still fairly new. I don't wear this palette. I will put this on my Poshmark. Same with the Saharian eyeshadow palette. I don't wear this eyeshadow palette at all. It's still practically new. I will also put this eyeshadow palette on Poshmark. I am not getting rid of the Wahala or Wahala 2 eyeshadow palettes. I'm not getting rid of neither one of these palettes because I still use these for makeup looks. Definitely keeping both eyeshadow palettes. This bronze eyeshadow palette from Natasha Denona, I forgot I had it. And now that I look at this eyeshadow palette, the only reason I'm going to go ahead and keep it is because it's broken at the top, and I would not want to give this to anybody that's broken. And then this was a birthday gift from my daughter, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep this eyeshadow palette. Got this Natasha Denona Glam Face palette. I remember when this first came out and I did get this palette. I'm going to go ahead and keep it because I have used it. I actually forgot I had this palette. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this eyeshadow palette. This palette is pretty pigmented, and this is the one for darker skin. So I am definitely going to be keeping this palette from Natasha Denona. This 35U Gilded Desert eyeshadow palette from Morphe. Not keeping this palette at all. I don't wear this palette. I honestly don't wear it. I think I've worn it maybe once or twice. This is a neutral palette. Look for this eyeshadow palette on my Poshmark. This is the Culture eyeshadow palette from Juvia's Place. I just picked up the Culture 2 eyeshadow palette. I do wear this palette. This is a very colorful eyeshadow palette. If you're not familiar with it, 100% keeping this Culture eyeshadow palette. The Naughty eyeshadow palette from Huda and the Empowered eyeshadow palette, Huda. Keeping both. I do wear both palettes. Not getting rid of neither one of these. I'm definitely keeping both palettes. This eyeshadow palette from Beats by Deb Cosmetics, 100% keeping. I love doing eyeshadow palettes, eyeshadow looks with her brand. If you're not familiar with Beats by Deb Cosmetics, she is a content creator. You mainly find her on Instagram, TikTok, and she has recently gone back to content on YouTube. This is her In the Buff eyeshadow palette. Very neutral eyeshadow palette, and I absolutely love it. I use this for when I'm doing makeup looks featuring black owned makeup brands, and she is a small business and very popular on all social media, so I am 100% keeping this eyeshadow palette by Beats by Deb Cosmetics. I thought I was going to wear this palette by Dominique Cosmetics. This is the Moment eyeshadow palette. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not going to wear this palette. I'm just not. It's really just in my way. I'm gonna go ahead and declutter it and give it to someone. It has some smudges right here, and I wouldn't want to sell something like that on Poshmark. So I'm gonna go ahead and declutter. This Makeup Revolution collab with the Plastic Boy. I've only worn this palette once or twice. Haven't worn it since. It's a very pigmented eyeshadow palette. It was limited edition. I don't see myself wearing this. You will find this eyeshadow palette on my Poshmark. Definitely keeping my Utopia eyeshadow palette from NYX. I am 100% keeping this eyeshadow palette. I do wear this eyeshadow palette when I'm doing makeup looks featuring NYX, and I have another one coming up soon, so I am definitely keeping this eyeshadow palette. I know y'all didn't think I was gonna touch this Pat McGrath Mothership 6. This palette was $125. You think I'm gonna give this away? I'm not giving this away. 1,000,000% keeping this Pat McGrath Mothership 6 eyeshadow palette. Last but not least, my Mented Every Night, Everyday eyeshadow palette and my Warm Neutrals eyeshadow palette from Sigma. Definitely keeping both eyeshadow palettes. I know Mented is going through a change right now. And this eyeshadow palette, the way these palettes are shaped from Sigma almost reminds me of ABH's eyeshadow palettes. So I'm definitely keeping this one from Sigma, and I'm definitely keeping this one from Mented. So now I am about to put these back, and I am about to get out the other palettes. All right, we are finally at the promised land, y'all. This is ridiculous how many eyeshadow palettes I have. This is crazy. This is crazy. It's crazy how many eyeshadow palettes I have. But we're at the promised land, y'all. We are at the promised land. I am going to start with this eyeshadow palette from Ciate London. I hadn't too long gotten this eyeshadow palette. However, I really, honestly, and truthfully don't see myself wearing this palette anytime soon. I am going to go ahead and declutter this eyeshadow palette from Ciate London. This eyeshadow palette from NARS, I don't wear this. I honestly don't wear it. Yeah, it still had the plastic on it. So I don't wear this eyeshadow palette at all. I am also going to go ahead and declutter this eyeshadow palette from NARS. Alright, both of these eyeshadow palettes from ABH. Look for these eyeshadow palettes on my Poshmark. I tried these eyeshadow palettes out and they are just not my cup of tea. I just cannot see myself wearing this anytime soon. So this will be on my Poshmark. This will also be on my Poshmark. Again, I don't see myself wearing these. Are colors that are really not my colors. I can't wear them. So look for both of these eyeshadow palettes on my Poshmark. All of these smaller Huda Beauty eyeshadow palettes, 100% keeping. I'm not getting rid of any of these eyeshadow palettes because I do wear these and I do like these. I do makeup looks with these. I have the blue one. Where's the blue one? I have the blue one. Oh, here's the blue one. I'm not getting rid of none of these eyeshadow palettes from Huda Beauty. 100% keeping all of these palettes from Huda Beauty. This Wild Child eyeshadow palette from ColourPop. I thought I would wear this palette more than I thought I would because this was definitely black girl friendly. I am going to go ahead and toss it. It's pretty old and I don't plan on wearing this. So I'm going to go ahead and toss it. The Supreme Mauve eyeshadow palette. I don't know. What do y'all think? I've only worn this eyeshadow palette once or twice. Only worn it once or twice. I'm going to go ahead and keep it for right now, but don't be surprised if I end up decluttering this. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and keep it. This eyeshadow palette from LA Girl, keeping. Can I tell you, pigmented. Love this eyeshadow palette. You can see I've been digging in it, so I am definitely keeping this eyeshadow palette. Also going to keep this eyeshadow palette from Black Opal. I forgot I had it. And I think I've only worn it maybe once or twice. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to keep this eyeshadow palette from Black Opal for any makeup looks I'm going to do featuring black owned makeup brands. And this is a definite black owned makeup brand. So I'm definitely going to keep this eyeshadow palette from Black Opal. Okay. I have both of these palettes. This is the Gilded Mini eyeshadow palette. This hadn't too long came out. This is from this palette, and as you can see, is the exact shades. This was from the collab that Juicy Jazz did with Milani a couple of years ago. I still have this palette, and it just so happens to be just like this. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one. You know, I forgot I had this eyeshadow palette from ColourPop. It is just like, here it is. The Wifey eyeshadow palette, the collab Makeup Shayla did with Dose of Colors. This is the Set in Stone eyeshadow palette. That's what this looks like. And here is the Wifey eyeshadow palette. The exact same. I'm definitely going to keep this eyeshadow palette because I do travel with this eyeshadow palette. Matter of fact, we're about to travel for travel basketball soon. So this is the palette I bring with me when we travel for basketball. So I'm going to keep this eyeshadow palette. This eyeshadow palette from ColourPop, I'm going to go ahead and declutter. I will not put this on my Poshmark because it's been sitting, and I wouldn't put this on my Poshmark. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to declutter this eyeshadow palette. The Gilded Gold eyeshadow palette from Milani. I'm going to go ahead and toss this. This is kind of old. So I am going to go ahead. I'm going to toss this eyeshadow palette. This Ace Beauté eyeshadow palette. I don't wear this. I think I've worn this eyeshadow palette once. Yeah. This is what the palette looks like. I don't reach for this. I don't. From Ace Beauté. It's a pretty palette. They are pigmented. I just don't pick it up. So I am going to go ahead and declutter this eyeshadow palette from Ace Beauté. This Mented eyeshadow palette, I just wore this. Like literally, I just wore this. I'm not getting rid of this eyeshadow palette. Definitely 100% keeping this eyeshadow palette from Mented. And just like the big one, I'm not getting rid of this mini eyeshadow palette from Pat McGrath. You nuts. Not getting rid of this. This was, what is this? This is the Divine Rose eyeshadow quad, and it cost enough money. Can I open it? Oh, here it is. This is what the palette looks like. Yeah, you see I've been loving it very much, so I am definitely keeping this eyeshadow palette. This palette costs a pretty penny to say it's just 4 shadows. Definitely keeping this eyeshadow palette. Also going to keep this eyeshadow palette from Rare Beauty. A lot of people didn't like this eyeshadow palette. I tend to use it when I'm doing makeup looks featuring all Rare Beauty. So I am going to go ahead and keep this eyeshadow palette from Rare Beauty. This is the other eyeshadow palette from the collab with Juicy Jazz. I am also going to go ahead and declutter this eyeshadow palette. This 9P Petal Passion eyeshadow palette from Morphe. I don't wear it. I just picked it up at Sephora, at Ulta. Thought I was going to wear it, and I don't. So look for this eyeshadow palette on my Poshmark. I just got these eyeshadow palettes, these clean eyeshadow palettes from Clean. These, what are these? Yeah, these are the Clean Fresh eyeshadow quads from CoverGirl. I don't know why I can't talk. I'm definitely keeping these because these still are new. So I'm definitely going to go ahead and keep these. 100% keeping my bite size shadows from e.l.f. These are $3, and the amount of pigment you get in these eyeshadow palettes are ridiculous how much pigment you get. I am definitely keeping these eyeshadow palettes from e.l.f. I have all these eyeshadow palettes from Juvia's Place. Y'all, I have all of these eyeshadow palettes from Juvia's Place. I have all of these eyeshadow palettes from Juvia's Place. This was a limited edition eyeshadow palette, and you literally see her face all over the place. She's done so many makeup campaigns for so many brands, but you mainly see her on Juvia's Place. Her name is Vanessa. Yeah, I've only worn this palette once. I am going to go ahead and declutter this one. However, I am going to go ahead and keep all of these palettes because I do wear this palette. That's just the one palette I don't wear, but I am going to keep these. I know y'all have lost y'all absolute rabbit mind if you think I'm going to get rid of any of these Patrick Ta eyeshadow palettes. I am not getting rid of none of these eyeshadow palettes from Patrick Ta. 100% keeping these. This is the Major Dimension 3, I believe. They're all matte. Yeah, this is the all matte one. I always refer back to this one. This is the Major Dimension 2. I always refer back to this one. And then this is the original Major Dimension 1 palette. This one is okay, but I have worn it a few times, but I am definitely keeping all 3 palettes from Patrick Ta. I am going to keep this eyeshadow palette from Wet n Wild. I hadn't too long got it, so I am going to go ahead and keep this one. However, I am going to go ahead and toss this one. This one is pretty old. The CoverGirl True Naked Sunsets palette. I need a new one. If they had, oh well, yeah, I have those other palettes, but this is pretty old. So I'm going to go ahead and toss this eyeshadow palette. I just got this MAC eyeshadow palette. I am going to go ahead and keep this. This is still pretty doggone new. Yeah, I had too long to open this, so I am going to go ahead and keep this eyeshadow palette. However, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and keep this eyeshadow palette from Fenty Beauty. They don't make this palette anymore, but I still wear it from time to time, so I am going to go ahead and I am also going to keep this one. These eyeshadow palettes from LA Colors, I am going to go ahead and keep all of these. I do like doing makeup looks featuring affordable makeup. This is definitely affordable makeup. This palette here, I got this from Five Below. You want to say pigmented? This has so much pigment. You just need a little bit on the brush. A little bit goes a long way. So I'm definitely going to keep all of these palettes from LA Colors. I absolutely love this palette from Too Faced, the Better Than Chocolate eyeshadow palette. I did a smoky eye look with this palette a while back on my second channel, and it got a lot of views. I am definitely going to be keeping this palette. As you can see, it's well loved. I do wear this eyeshadow palette from Too Faced. This had been sitting out for the longest time, and I never opened it. This is the American Eagle limited edition from e.l.f. For now, I'm gonna go ahead and keep it. This is what it looks like. I made fool with some of the blues, and Juicy Jazz hadn't too long used this eyeshadow palette herself. She kind of forgot about it herself. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep it for the time being. This Going Coconuts eyeshadow palette and the By the Rose eyeshadow palette, I wear both of these. I wear them. This one is broken. I don't know how it broke, but it did. It broke. And as you can see, I do wear this eyeshadow palette. So I am definitely keeping the Going Coconuts. I am definitely keeping the By the Rose eyeshadow palette. This one I had too long got from ColourPop. I don't know if they still offer this eyeshadow palette. They rotate eyeshadow palettes every time you look up. This is such a chocolatey eyeshadow palette. I am going to go ahead and keep this eyeshadow palette as well as these all from ColourPop. Last but not least, y'all, this eyeshadow palette from Artist Couture. Y'all, this was the Midnight Maven. I still wear this palette. I still wear this, and you can see this palette is well loved. 100% keeping this eyeshadow palette from Artist Couture. And that completes my declutter. I have decluttered literally everything. I have gotten rid of so much stuff. The items that I said I would put on my Poshmark, I will go ahead and link my Poshmark in the bottom of the description box, so you can go ahead and get a glance at all of these items I will be putting on my Poshmark. They will be very reasonably priced. I don't know if any of these are going to go past $20. I'm just going to say that. I seriously doubt that. I would probably say the one from the Norvina palette. I'm not sure. I'm going to debate on how much I'm going to put that palette on Poshmark. It might be the highest one, and it may be above $20. I haven't decided yet on what I'm going to do, but yeah, those are the ones I will put on Poshmark, and you will see it soon on my Poshmark. So that is it with this declutter video. With that being said, this is Venetia Alexander Marshall. I hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.